I think the Dodgers are better than the Yankees. They were better than them last October, and I think they're probably better than them, especially at full force if they get all their pitching back, than the Yankees. The Yankees have work to do between now and July 31st to get both internally healthy and to solve a couple of issues. I do think if they play again in late October, what happened over these 3 days will probably not matter much.
Hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post. My name is Ryan Sampson, but he's the star of the show, Joel Sherman. Today is Monday, June 2nd. The New York Yankees lose the series versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. They salvage what was a pretty ugly series on Sunday with a win, and we're here to break it down with our guy, Joel. But before we get to any of that, Joel, how you doing, man?
Good. I lost my soul watching the Colorado Rockies play baseball over the weekend. It's you it is hard to believe a baseball team is 9-50. I just I'm I mean, it's been years in the coming because that team is such a mom and pop. It's like it's one thing to have a lack of talent, which teams have had all the time, but the way information is dispersed now and new knowledge and how to prepare and how to scout and how to find players and how to maximize every player on your team and maximize a game plan and maximize a series for the Rockies to be that behind and have a talent gap. I mean, I really think we might see a 35 win team this year. And they might be lucky to get to 35.
Yeah, they're brutal to watch. I'll actually be there this weekend in Colorado to watch the Mets versus Rockies, so I get to see that slop this weekend. But Joel, I watched some slop from the Yanks this weekend as well. Friday and Saturday were pretty ugly. Friday blowing a big lead. Saturday getting absolutely demolished. Sunday they played a lot better. I heard Austin Wells' comments after the game. I heard Aaron Boone's comments after the game, Joel. They're both saying, we don't listen to the outside noise. But meanwhile, they both have the time to say, we feel good about salvaging that game and winning that game Sunday. So you tell me, Joel, how are you looking at that series, and what are your takeaways from what the Yankees were able to do on Sunday versus the Dodgers, but not on Saturday and Friday?
Yeah, I mean, I think they lost the series in late May and early June. The Dodgers aren't that far away from being swept by the Angels. The Yankees aren't that far away from sweeping the Angels. I mean, stuff happens during the regular season. I think the Phillies are a pretty good team. They got the crap beat out of them this weekend by the Brewers, including giving up 17 runs, I think, in a game two of the series when they have a very good rotation. I think the Dodgers are better than the Yankees. They were better than them last October, and I think they're probably better than them, especially at full force if they get all their pitching back, than the Yankees. The Yankees have work to do between now and July 31st to get both internally healthy and to solve a couple of issues. I do think if they play again in late October, what happened over these 3 days will probably not matter much. You know, yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers are a better team. Uh, the Yankees are a different team, and I actually think the Yankees are better than last year also. I think I said that last week. I said I think this is a better version of the Yankees. It's a different version of the Yankees, one that plays a cleaner game and has a longer lineup. And by the way, for the first few innings on Friday night and yesterday, the length of the lineup did show itself where they get a lot. Last year, the Yankees were very reliant on a Soto Judge combination. Like if they scored in that inning, great. If not, they kind of waited around an hour to have a chance to score again. And like they built a big lead with a guy who would be in the conversation for the AL Cy Young right now on Friday night, and that guy pitched his worst game as a Yankee. Ultimately, is that a sign of anything besides a bad start? I don't know. Like the Dodgers, obviously, the Dodgers threw one guy you would imagine them starting in a playoff series in this series, and the Yankees beat him up last night. So I don't, like it's the problem in a 162 game season of trying to, do anything. I thought I said last week that I thought the most important statement the Yankees could make this weekend was to play clean against the Dodgers because they had played so sloppy, especially in games 1 and 5 last year uh, to me, lose the World Series as much as the Dodgers won it to some degree. And, I do think this is a different Yankee team. I think they play cleaner defensively, and I think the length of their lineup is better. And they lost 2 or 3 games this weekend. And, there'll probably be a point this year where they lose 2 or 3 games to a really bad team. Like the Dodgers were swept by a really bad team by the Angels. I think over the long season, it's hard to take a lot out of 3 games for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you said, the marathon of the season, the fact that Ryan Yarbough is the best pitcher of the weekend between both teams, and that your best pitcher, Max Fried, had his worst game of the season, and that the Yankees beat up on Yamamoto is just it's just baseball. That's just how it is, and that's how it goes with some of these games.
So, I mean, do we take something bigger? I mean, like, what do we take out of the 5 starts by Yarbough?
That he looks like an actual legit. He's like for me, Joel. He's like a junk ball pitcher. I mean, he throws a lot of stuff at you, and he picks at all 4 corners. Like all 4 quadrants are really he can place it wherever he wants, and you could tell he has a plan of attack on most hitters, and that's where to me it's like there's value in that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, it's 5 starts. I think even 5 starts, like 3 games, I don't know what to make of it. It doesn't look like anything from his history. He has by far the highest, like, he doesn't strike out this many guys as a pure reliever as he's striking in now. He's striking out, since he went into the rotation, he's striking out a quarter of the batters while holding opponents to about a 170 batting average. I mean, that's a high-end starter. Like, if I told you for the last 5 starts that's what Tarek Skubal did, you'd go, oh yeah, or Garrett Crochet, but it's 5 starts. I don't know what to make of it. It feels to me a little like late stage CC Sabathia, because once Sabathia lost the fire in his fastball, he became really good at taking the air out of the ball. Like, he was able to craftily pitch. He could still strike out, say, probably about 7 or 8 per 9 innings, which is fine, probably near the league average. But he was just really good at getting weak contact. And to me, it feels like that's a Yarborough strength. He seems to take the air out of the ball while also, as a starting pitcher, and again, I don't know what this means, striking out a quarter of the batters is not a small number. That's, up a little above league average or so. And so to me, value is when you get things. He's been incredibly valuable since the beginning of May. And I mean, he was even valuable as a long reliever before then, helping to protect the bullpen for like about $1.5 million, $2 million on the dawn of the season. He's already more than earned that amount of money from the Yankees by what he's done, everything getting them both closer to Luis Gil
Mm-hmm.
and getting them closer to July 31st. So I think he's kind of almost been invaluable. And I am curious, is this every major leaguer is good enough to have a period where they play like an all-star by simply making the major leagues? You probably, if you're good enough to make the major leagues, you probably have a month or two where you could do it. It usually happens with hitting. Mike Tauchman, Mike Ford, uh, Carpenter, who came over from the Cardinals,
Matt Carpenter.
Matt Carpenter. Like, those guys had like 2 months each. We were like, wow, look at those guys hit, but that's not who they really are. So is this a Matt Carpenter moment pitching wise for Yarborough, or did he, as he's evolved as a pitcher, learn to do some things with the baseball that actually makes him a qualified starting pitcher right now? More than again, these last 5 starts are pretty high level production. It's like number 2 starter stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I guess I look at it as a fan, it's like a bonus with Yarbrough. Like, for me, like, I wasn't counting on Yarbrough to be what he is right now. So everything you're getting moving forward is just a bonus, because you and I both know when Gil comes back, he's not gonna be part of this rotation after Gil comes back and after they make a starter acquisition at the deadline. But you take what you're getting from him, and yesterday they needed that clearly. Like, and the bullpen was worn out, and they needed 6 innings from Yarbrough, and he gave them 6 innings, which was it's probably more than you were expecting. Like, you were expecting 5 innings because they brought up Carrasco yesterday, and probably looking like, oh, we might need Carrasco because the bullpen's been taxed so much. So I don't know what to read into Yarbrough. Like, it's a welcome addition. It's like you said, and maybe he's going on his Matt Carpenter Yankee run here, but I've enjoyed it. I mean, and the fact that he's doing it with overpowering stuff is what's impressive. I just, for me, Joel, as I'm reading into this, The Dodgers are clearly the better team. Like there's no joke about it. That they have the insane lineup 1 through 9. Even without Mookie Betts this weekend, they still had an insane lineup. Max Muncy showed again that he could be a very good baseball hitter. Ohtani did what he did Friday night, and Freddie Freeman's one of the best hitters in baseball. So the Yankees don't have the Dodgers lineup. Like that's what I took out of it. And
Yeah, but the Yankees have a good lineup, right? Like a very good lineup. They're both averaging up in the high fives as far as runs per game. And the question is, in a postseason series, do the Dodgers have better hitters? Like to me,
yes,
I know for sure Freddie Freeman is going to hit in October.
yeah,
He's just a great hitter. I'm not sure Aaron Judge is going to hit in October because I haven't seen it
yeah.
yet in a lot of Octobers, right? So, you know, I think it's one of those. I I I th- I think the Dodgers have a group of better hitters, and the Yankees are still a little more all or nothing.
Yes.
Uh, though we're in an extended period of like say Volpe having much better at bats, that are not just homer or bust at bats. And I thought that last night against the guy who the two previous times they had faced him, they had been bad. And a guy you could imagine pitching a postseason series, I thought the at bats were good, right? Like I don't know what to make of that singular game, or not. I still feel the Yankee lineup, which has a way to get better, right? Stanton still might join it. I assume Jazz Chisholm is joining it this week, as maybe as early as tomorrow night. So I think their lineup is fine. They'll probably find a right-handed bat between now and July 31st that should help a little more. But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
still
you had LeMahieu break out finally last night, 4 for 5. He broke an over 15 slump because it was looking pretty ugly for him. I mean, like you had said to us before, way earlier in the season, like this could be LeMahieu's last shot, for him, and they're gonna see and give him a run here of what you can do. And it was getting pretty ugly for him. I mean, it was nice to see him get 4 hits last night. First 4 hit game
and
since
hit the ball
2021.
hard in
Yeah,
two of them. Like he hit the ball well on two of those hits. And but you've got to see more than a singular game.
100%.
And I think one of the things I've kind of been consistent about with him is like just be league average, right? Because they have a lot of guys carrying weight above league average right now. And so if he's league average and can field his position, and it is interesting, they are catering to him by leaving him at second base where he clearly wants to be. That means that Jazz Chisholm's coming back to play third base. I don't know if that's a wise use of the
I was gonna say,
personnel.
is that a good idea?
I I think that they like the idea of going into July, the July trade market, being able to acquire a second baseman or third baseman. And because I think we did this a few weeks ago, Ryan, just play junior general manager and run your finger down the third baseman who could conceivably be available.
Yeah.
It's not a long list. It's not a long list. So you want to probably we'll look at third baseman and second baseman. So if Jazz can play either, I think he could do that. The thing with Jazz is part of their defensive issues last year was, to me, Jazz was Carl Anthony Towns on defense, which
Mm.
is constantly out of position. Like, forget about if you're good or bad at it. You're constantly not in the right place on cutoffs, on plays. And I think that the Yankees, who have been, again, I'm very, very big fan of like defensive efficiency for looking at defense. Like just simply what percentage of balls put in play do you record into outs? The Yankees have been really good at it this year. Really good at it this year. And they've been really good at not throwing the ball around. Like there hasn't been like the follies, the Keystone Cop stuff this year. There was last year. And to me, am I putting Chisholm in a place where he could get lost? Or does he come and surprise us and really embrace all the good defensive stuff that's going on with the team this year?
I don't know, but I feel it feels like Joel, because last year you put a lot of guys playing out of position, and that included Jazz. If you're putting him back at third, it feels like you're putting him out of position again, and you're putting your team weaker defensively. And I worry about when you have Max Fried starts, who gets a lot of ground balls to third base, how that's going to turn out for you. And if you decide, I don't know, does Boone say, I'm going to put Jazz at second on the days Fried is pitching because I know third base is going to be, priority defensively? Because you're getting almost Gold Glove like defense from Peraza at third. He can't hit, but you're getting a really, really good defense there. So that's where I would be a little concerned when Jazz comes back this week. How you mess around with that?
Yeah, I think that this is an interesting moment for their season to see how he handles the position. But I've been assured by multiple people in the organization this is about opening up the possibility of both second and third base at the deadline. That
Interesting.
that it's a very tough bucket to find either, and to be able to look into both puts the Yankees in a better position to solve something. But I would not do it I would have a very, very little tolerance, 15, 20 game look at this. And if Jazz is still wandering around not knowing where to be on the field, I would get out of it. I would get out of it and just swallow that bullet of third base is hard to find, but you got to try to do it.
Yeah, and you mean, and by get out of it, you mean move him back
Put
to
it back at
second.
second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I just think that their pivot this year was about longer lineup, better defense.
Yep.
And 60-ish games into the season, they've kind of honored that. They've had a longer lineup and a better defense. And I wouldn't, like, you've got to walk the walk. Like, you can't start making the compromise of, we'll do that. Because, like, to me, if you're going to compromise, then just put Ben Rice at third base. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, if you're going to say, like, we're looking to put as many bats in the lineup or whatever, and I don't think they should do that. I think one of the ways you win close games in October is you keep the other team to 27 outs. And you don't just give away 90 feet because you don't know where to be on relays, etc. And so I think it's an important issue. I think the Yankees are good enough to play very, very meaningful games this year. And they got away with, they were just flat out better than Cleveland and Kansas City last year. And so, but they beat them in the playoffs. When they met a team that was at least their equal, if not better, the stuff that was inefficient and inadequate and quite frankly ugly cost them a season.
Yeah. And while that wasn't the reason why they lost the series this weekend, it showed again why the Dodgers are a clear-cut favorite here in baseball, and they're a better team than the Yanks. We saw it. We saw how much more effective their lineup was, and we're going to see.
It was a bets free lineup.
It was a bets free lineup. And listen, the Yankees are going to welcome Jazz Chisholm back in the lineup. I do wonder what he's going to be offensively because it was not great, to be honest with you, at times this year. There was a lot of all or nothing swings from him, and I wish he would just be more of a, hey, let's get on base and let's make some damage like we're talking about here. Be a full-length lineup. Keep the lineup moving. Get the guys on base. Try and make some chaos for the other team because he has that ability. He really does, and he has all the tools to be that real X factor for the Yankees lineup. Joel, I want to move over to Do Up here. There's a couple players here who had really rough weekends. I'm going to list them off here. Max Fried, Will Warren. I would say Weaver had a pretty rough weekend because he gave up another run, and Jonathan Loizaga. 4 guys here I highlighted here, and Weaver's also got the hammy now. If you were to look at these guys, which is most concerning if you were going to rank them?
My concern about Fried is 0. Is it possible that the Dodgers are some kryptonite for him? Maybe. If that's true, the next time you have to worry about that is game 1 of the World Series. Because, the Dodgers and Yankees don't play again. And he's been, to think that there wasn't going to be a bad start of 4 in 30 was probably not realistic. And so unless this, it's all that balancing stuff. We've talked about this a lot, like with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is almost certainly not going to hit 400. So if you think like, like a really, really good season for him would probably be he hits 340, 330, whatever it's going to be in the end. that means he's probably going to hit 260 the rest of the year, 250, whatever the number is. And like Max Fried probably wasn't going to have a 1.0 ERA this year. So if he's going to finish at about 3.20, it means he might have a 4 ERA the rest of the year.
You don't think he'll
Like,
finish with
like
a sub 3?
so if he finishes with a 2.8, it's still going to be higher than a 2.8 the rest of the
No,
year.
yeah, I know it will be,
Like,
Joel. I think he has the ability and the way he's gone about it. Like, I think he could finish with a sub 3.
okay, so it's a sub 3, but he's going to have 4 bad starts
Right.
this year in a great year, right? So I don't think he's on that list. He's a proven excellent starter who, through the first 2 months of the season, showed New York isn't bothering him, Yankee Stadium's not bothering him. He's really built for this. So unless he's hurt, uh, I I don't think he belongs on that list. The other three guys, you know, Loizica is coming back from serious injury, and I thought there was a game last week where I thought his stuff played up at the highest level, and I thought, oh, that's important. Maybe he's fully back because I believe in this pitcher, but maybe he's not, and he's still working off rust. That's tough to do when you're going to be a high leverage guy, and you're in your bullpen every day, but they have to live with it, because they've got to get him right because he could be so valuable to them when they're playing the biggest games in September and October. So I still believe in the player, and it might be Russ. The Will Warren thing is, it's a little bit like Yarbough. Unless you see a guy do it over and over again, you're always like, well, did he have his really good starts? Did he do it against some teams who are susceptible to, like, the amazing thing about the Dodgers was if it was over the plate, they killed it
Hmm.
against him. Like, they laid off, like Will Warren, because his best pitch is probably that sweeper. Like, he needs people to be undisciplined and chase. And so the Dodgers, who might be among the most disciplined, if not the most disciplined team in the sport, didn't lay off of the stuff. So the question was that the best offense he might face this year? And then he's just going to be fine moving forward because everyone will be lesser than the Dodgers and his stuff will play up again? Or, did he just have the best 5 or 6 start run he's going to have in 2025? And he's going to need to go back to the minors at some point. So I think his next starter three are going to be interesting for who he is. I would note, who knows if this is real or not? Like, Stroman is beginning to throw again. If I'm to trust the people I generally trust with the Yankees, I think that Stroman was probably really bothered by this knee, but might have been trying to get to 140 innings and therefore started a season he maybe shouldn't have started, and let this be dealt with. If Stroman were able to come back and be who he was his first half Stroman last year, that's a really valuable number 5 starter. Like you could put Will Warren at AAA if he's going to be that guy. Do I think he'll be that guy? 20% chance. That's 1 in 5 that'll come back. But like him and Heel are on some trajectory. I would remember they've spent a lot of time rehabbing JT Brubaker,
Yep.
who I believe they have to make a decision on about June 15th or 16th. His 30-day rehab will be up. He has no options. So either they bring him to the major league team as a starter or reliever, or he's susceptible to be picked up. And let's be honest, there are teams like Colorado and Chicago and Pitt, like, who, if you're close to being a major league player, these teams should pick you up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if JT Brubaker is or not, but like, there's certainly teams out there that should do it. So the Yankees have a little internal depth they might be creating that might be able to tide them over until Hill / July 31st trade or two. But like, the question for Warren is, was this a blip or not? And with the Weaver thing, Weaver has pitched very well for a long time, so I'm going to assume he's good. The question is, have the Yankees overused
That's
a
what
not
I'm
very
wondering.
a not very big human being? Like, if you ever stand next to Luke Weaver, the thing that would come out of your mouth would not be professional athlete. Like, he's athletic, he's very athletic, but it doesn't resonate easily. He's not a big, imposing guy. So like, have they done that, and has he broken a little bit, maybe with this hamstring? We'll probably get more details. Yankees aren't very good about giving off-day details, so I think we won't really begin to hear something until pregame on Tuesday, which is tomorrow before the Guardian series. So, he's a pretty important guy because then the question will be if he's not around, who's closing? Do they go back to Williams
God,
and see
no.
if they can get a run out of Williams? I'm assuming Fernando Cruz is coming off the injured list tomorrow. Is he part of it? Is it Leiter? Is it mix and match Leiter and Hill? Does Loizaga become part of it, etc.? And it's all just mix and match. Maybe you do that. My suspicion is they take another run at Devin Williams and see, this is a guy who was one of the best ninth inning pitchers in the sport for multiple years. And I think they'd take a look to see if he could be that because it just makes everything easier. But I would assume since they've pulled the plug already on it, that if it didn't look good, they pull the plug quickly and get into a mix and match where I would think that Leiter and Hill in particular would get a lot of run.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Hill come in yesterday after they gave up a couple runs. I With Weaver, he the last 3 games have not been great for him, and I do wonder, like you said, if it's just starting to wear on him a little bit. I do wonder if they IL him for a stint to give him a rest here mid-season, see if they can get him back healthy and get him going. The Devin Williams experiment in the ninth inning is not worth it. This at least at this stage, in my opinion. Like you said, they tried it and it looked bad again. He looks good in the 8th inning. Like he can hold opponents. Like you saw him yesterday against the Dodgers. 1, 2, 3. Like that's what he can do. But he just, for some reason, in the 9th inning, it just hasn't worked here in New York with him. The one question I do now we're on the relief part of the team. Did you have any not concern but question on Friday night? Yankees, I think, were down 6-5 in the moment, and they brought in De Los Santos after they had already brought in Loizaga. Did you have why the Yanks went with that route at that point of the game?
Yeah, I think that one of the things you have to appreciate with bullpen management, it doesn't mean that it's not wrong, is I do think managers are constantly thinking about 162 games and not just like, hey, we got to win the Friday night game at Dodger Stadium. And if you don't, like the reality is, like even when Fried pitches, you're going to need any place from 6 to 9 outs generally. And that's your guy, right? And same with Rodon. And I just think you're in bullpens all the time. And if you're not spreading it around, I'm watching the same thing with the Mets. You must, and that it's one of the success stories of the Mets is they've really spread it around. And there's probably a lot of times where you're like, what's Jose Budo doing in this game? It's like, well, you just can't go to the guy you trust every time. It's too long a season. And so you have to build up trust and belief and or suck it up sometimes with the third best option because if you don't, like I'm not sitting with, I wish Ryan, I was sitting with who had pitched a lot the days leading up to this, and like who would have been the obvious guy to go to there.
Yeah, I mean, they'd given Weaver a couple of nights off, but you're saving him for the 9th inning in that situation. I think Williams pitched the night prior. It's just it felt like
I think not only the night prior, but maybe 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. Yep. So
I just think that you're constantly like we're talking right here about did they burn Luke Weaver out before June 1st? So you just have to there are no complete games. There are 8 inning games now should be considered complete games. So there's no 8 inning games. Like it's there was all going to be a parade at Citi Field yesterday when Clay Holmes went to the 7th inning for the first time in his
versus the
career.
Rockies. Come on.
Yeah, I know. But like this is how you save bullpens
Yeah.
is you need 3 outs, the extra 3 outs every once in a while. And I just think when you're in bullpens all the time, there's this delicate thing. And one of the things that's not let's be frank. If the Yankees were winning this game yesterday 10-2 and Weaver never got up, they wouldn't have said a word to you about Weaver's hamstring until an IL stint, possibly tomorrow. So, like, what we don't know about Friday night is is somebody down who they're not telling you about because they never want to provide that information to the other team / public. So, like, sometimes when a guy comes into a game, you do not have all the information at your disposal.
Yeah.
And I think these are generally very good. And so are the Mets, by the way, very good at bullpen management.
Yeah, it was just a curious, like you said, it was just a curious decision, and I was wondering what you thought about it. Finally, for Jasson Dominguez, he's got the thumb contusion now. He's the other injury that came out from last night's game. Is there concern at all for Dominguez, who is putting together quite a season right now? It's not like I think fans get a little ridiculous because he's the most hyped prospect. He was called the Martian and all that. Let's not forget he missed a lot of baseball, like you've said, over the years. And this is his first real run in the majors, and he's putting together a really solid season, I would say. Is there concern if he misses time with the thumb injury, and where do they go for that fourth outfielder, option there?
Yeah, I would assume Everson Pereira is performing well at AAA right now. I would assume he's the guy. It's interesting. Pereira, though, hasn't hit lefty pitching as a righty hitter in AAA, which is one of the things I've been watching because I keep thinking, does he help solve a problem at some point this year? Because I think they need another righty bat. Now, some of that might be solved with Stanton. We don't know. Some of it might be solved if LeMahieu plays better. But I still think between now and July 31st, they'll end up getting a righty bat who plays second, third, or a corner outfield or some combination of those things. Um, uh, I think for a lot of our off season, when you and I would talk about the group of young hitters, Rice, Wells, Volpe, Dominguez, and say, can they all have 700 something OPS and combine for like 80 homers and 50 steals? Something like that. 75 homers, whatever the numbers were. I think that probably someplace in line to do that. Like maybe fall some short a little on homers or but like it's part of the long lineup has been all of those guys have been fine or better, including Dominguez. And I think if Dominguez had just signed the regular contract and never been known as the Martian, we'd be saying, oh, that's an interesting rookie season he's having, especially for a guy who hasn't played a lot of baseball. I think you could certainly have found Yankee personnel who thought Jasson Dominguez is going to be a good to very good player, right? And that everything else is oversold. And I think what we're seeing is the potential for him, if he ever could get his defense in order, to be a good to very good major league player, which has a lot of value, especially, switch hitter with speed. There's some power. I do think, especially from the left side, he takes a good at bat. Gets deep counts, draws a good fair share of walks, is a menace on the bases once he's there. So he has some real skill and some real downside, right? He doesn't hit well from the right side yet, if he's ever going to do that. And he doesn't defend well, if he's ever going to do that. Yeah, I think he's having a fine rookie season. If his nickname wasn't the Martian and he hadn't gotten their whole bonus money at 1 year, we'd go, oh, that's a good rookie season.
Yeah, and it's funny how it works with the baseball season too. You're losing if he does go on the IL. Let's say you're losing him, but you're adding Jazz Chisholm, another athletic, speedy, fast guy who has loud tools that can make some damage and chaos for you offensively.
And also, like, if you're going to get Stanton back at some point, I don't know when that is, and your outfield across was Bellinger, Grissom, Judge with Stanton DHing, and Ben Rice mixing in, the loss of Dominguez, I do think this is one of the success stories of the 2025 Yankees so far. They probably have 10 to 12 or so hitters you don't mind playing a lot.
Yeah.
And that just was not the case last year. It really was Soto, Judge, and a little power and some power in some other places, but not things that could sustain an inning and like really put a lot of pressure on an opposing pitching staff. And it's more 1-9 or 1-10 or 1-11, or when Stanton comes back, 1-12 than it's been in recent years. So I think they have a chance to still, like, I think they could, if the injury is not to someone whose last name is Judge, I think they could withstand almost anything.
I think as a fan, I still want to see more, as crazy as that sounds. Like, only 60 games in, I've pointed out on last week's episode, June and July have not been good months for the Yankees in the last couple of years. This is where you really need to make a mark and take a stand because the AL East it's there. It's theirs for the taking. Like they can run away with this division in the next 2 months and really go for it at the deadline and shore up any holes they have. And I just want to see if this lineup can keep it going the next 2 months. And Ben Rice is the guy I love watching that guy play, man. He hit that homer on that splitter yesterday. He could be a real force for them in that lineup and be all year round for them.
Well, he's on pace to hit between 25 and 30 homers while sporting a pretty good,
Got,
on base percentage and decent batting average. And, like that's a really high end, productive season
that they
there.
developed.
Yes. I mean, for I think a 12th round draft choice or right about there, it's a hell of a pick uh, with what looks like a pretty confident young hitter who I think in spring training we did a show and I know it got some feedback because people were like, what? I said, the Yankees think he's the number 5 hitter. And I think he's showing he could be probably like he'll go around the league a few more times. His holes will be exposed. We'll see how he adapts. He seems like a smart, confident kid with real life in his bat. And if this continues, now I want to preface this by saying I'm talking about the light version, LITE, the light version. There is a little Kyle Schwarber in him.
Yeah.
Right? He can draw a walk, and there's going to be some strikeout in his game. And there's a question of maybe where you're going to play him on the field. But when the ball hits his bat, it really goes.
Yeah.
And that's very Kyle Schwarber light. Kyle Schwarber is going to get $100 million contract this offseason. So, like, I want to be clear, it's the light version, but he's in that Venn diagram. That's kind of the player he might be arcing to be.
Yeah, I mean, this is the beginning of his career, Joel. I mean, this is the start.
And by the way, if you're 85% of Kyle Schwarber, you're a hell of a hitter.
Yeah, and the stats and the analytics will say he's hitting into a lot of bad luck in the last month because he's slowed down obviously from that torrid start he was on, but he's hit into a lot of bad luck and yesterday again comes up big, go ahead homer. I mean, or I think tied the game homer, but like the guy has been awesome for him, and he's hitting behind Judge, like he's doing it, like they're putting him in the spot and saying, "Here you go, kid, see what you got. Let's see what you got." So. With him and Dominguez, I would like to see Jasson to continue to get run and hopefully he can stay healthy here because it just, like you said, all along, it continues to help this team's offense going and get some production from the rest of the lineup. Joel, let's go to Joel's notebook and wrap this up. We've hinted at it a lot here. The deadline is 61 days away. We're starting to see how this team is formulating from both the offensive and pitching parts of the team. How do you read this team and what they're going to do to address their holes here at the deadline coming up?
Yeah, so the one thing I feel pretty comfortable and confident about is they'll acquire a starting pitcher. And then the question is, what exactly is available in the marketplace? I wrote about this in Sunday's paper. If you think of the season in thirds, the first third completes Memorial Day weekend. It's a little bit the appetizer of it. Like you begin to get a feel and some stuff becomes obvious, right? The Rockies, the White Sox, the Pirates, there are certain teams that are already out, right? And then there's clearly defined Yankees, Tigers, Dodgers, Mets, Phillies kind of teams. They're clearly all in. And now we've never had a larger group in the middle because of the 3 wild cards in both leagues, and wild cards doing well every year in the postseason. Mets getting to the NLCS last year, Diamondbacks recently getting to the World Series, etc. So you have the Phillies were a World Series team as the 3rd wild card against Houston a few years ago. So teams don't want to concede when it's out there, and there are some teams that are very much all in who are teetering teams who don't want to do it. It's like the Rangers are an all-in team. They're not playing well. The Diamondbacks are an all-in team. They're not playing well. So, what is going to... The Red Sox, are they all in? Well, once you do Bregman and, you know what I mean, and trade for Crochet, you're kind of near it, and they haven't played well. so far this year. Atlanta is an all-in team. They haven't played well. So this third of the season really begins to define. It's like Corbin Burns came out of the game yesterday with an
Oof.
elbow injury. If Corbin Burns is shot, the Diamondbacks become a very, very interesting potential seller. Both Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen are free agents at the end of the year. And they might be beyond what Arizona wants to pay. And they're both pitchers. Now, Gallen isn't having a Gallen year so far, and Kelly is an off injured guy, but when he pitches, he's very good and he's been good in the postseason. So, like, throw those two guys. Like, if the Diamondbacks are in this because Burns is hurt and it's not firing, right? So you have those two guys. Plus, once AJ Puck gets healthy, it's an interesting late inning bullpen guy who could be available. Eugenio Suarez is a free agent at the end of the year, plays third base. He used to be a really good defensive player, and he did not start the season well defensively. And I think it's gotten a little better as it's gone along. And, he's a high strikeout, low average guy in general, but he could really hit a home run. So does he become a guy, like maybe even if you think about the Yankees, like for them to play third base, if at least it gives you a power threat there. If you want to move Jazz back, if the LeMahieu thing never works out or Jazz doesn't work at third base. So, like, I think this third of the season becomes defining, and then nothing really, really happens. I believe the draft is July 13th and 14th. So I don't think anything really happens until after the draft is completed because it gives everybody more time to decide whether they're buyers, sellers, and that's the trade. That's the All-Star break. The draft is the Sunday. The big part of the draft is the Sunday night of the All-Star game and completed on Monday before the Tuesday All-Star game. So I think you have that. So I think if we were sitting here today, I think it would be hard to believe that the Yankees won't invest in a starting pitcher. Because like one of the things we don't know also is funny. I was talking to a Yankee person recently, and they're like, we think Luis Gil is really good, but Luis Gil doesn't have a track record. So like when he comes back, it's not inconceivable that Luis Gil could struggle. Coming off like he's coming off an inch. So he goes like, so that the point being, I just think the Yankees have enough questions in enough different places where they'll go get a starting pitcher between now and the deadline. I think they'll add a reliever
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's in most volume. And if they could pick up somebody they trust to deal with the final 6 to 9 outs of the game, I think they'll do that. And I think that uh, they'll get a righty hitter who helps them at second and or third and or corner outfield, notably left field. They have to, if you're playing for everything, at some point you have to pull the plug on Dominguez batting right-handed. Like not on a big picture thing. Like I'm not saying give up switch hitting. It's not part of 2026. But if he doesn't start showing some market improvement from the right side and you're playing big games, you can't just be stubbornly, we're going to keep shoving him in there. There's going to have to be a right-handed complement for him who hits lefty pitching. And so it's like one of the things that happened over the years, like by Stanton not being able to play the outfield, you lose that potential for that, certainly in Yankee Stadium, a big left field. So
Yeah.
I just think like if I were sitting here today, barring an injury someplace, I would think in order, I would rank it start at least one starting pitcher, at least one relief pitcher, and a righty bat who helps them in one of those three spots.
I also wonder about the righty bat, Joel. There's no guarantee Giancarlo Stanton can stay healthy the rest of the year, too.
Right.
This is an
That's
unknown.
why I think the righty bat matters.
Yeah, this is an unknown injury.
Well, that DJ LeMahieu could stay healthy or productive.
Yeah, again,
So I do think they'll when the Yankees are good and they have buckets, I think Brian Cashman's front office has shown it will get someone in every bucket. Like I hate to start throwing out names that I'm doing a lot of thinking about because everything gets aggregated now and misinterpreted. But there are supplemental right-hand hitters who are on some bad teams that I could imagine becoming available in the next 7 weeks and being players of interest for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
righty hitting is really down in the sport, especially righty hitting against lefty pitching. Go look at some of the numbers. It's terrible. So like those guys who are going to be available, who have a track record of doing it, will have real value. And the one other thing I would throw into this, Ryan, is I don't know if it will happen, but somebody should become a seller quick and change the marketplace and get, because you see, it's like, like if you don't take advantage of a market, like a guy could get hurt,
Yeah.
the market could close. And if I were just like I always look at a team like Tampa Bay, which always believes that it could use its secondary players and not change its fate much for the current season. I think one of the things that the Rays always want to do is make sure is if they lose their starter at this position, that the drop off to the next guy isn't that big and that they could fill in and not lose that many steps while continuing to build for the future, right? Like they move it. So, for example, if they were to trade like someone like Brandon Lau, their second baseman, I think they have like a lot of moving part infielders that would cover it. Now, Brandon Lau's a lefty hitter,
Yeah.
but like, is there a team out there, including like the Yankees have had interest in Lau before? And by the way, so have the Mets have had interest in Lau before, and probably 10 other teams have. Like he's a proven lefty bat, but he has a back problem. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but like I could see a team like that saying we could jump the market. Like Peter Fairbanks,
Fairbanks, I was gonna say.
right, is a late inning reliever. Like I'm not sure about him in New York, but like he's a proven late inning guy. Garrett Clevenger is a really good lefty reliever. Uh, and I think that Tampa Bay would always believe they have guys behind them who can do these jobs if they could get what they wanted. So, like, if I were thinking about who would jump the market to see if they could get some stuff done, that would be a team.
What about like someone like Yandy Diaz?
Yeah, he's not been playing well though, and
No.
he's like a first baseman only now, really a DH. Like
Mm.
like the Rays who really believe in defense. They walk the walk. They play Taylor Walls all the time, and Taylor Walls can't hit, but they play him because he's such a good defender. Like they're playing Ben Rodford, and he can't hit because he's such a good defender. Uh, if they're not putting Yandy Diaz in the field, they're telling you something loud about Yandy Diaz and his ability to play to first base, much less third base, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not even trusting him really at first.
No, I know. I just he's a right-handed bat, and I do wonder again.
Yeah.
With I'm just saying again, what ifs? Because if Stanton doesn't come back, and
I don't think the Yankees could get a non-functioning fielding right-hand hitter.
okay, that's what I was kind of
I think
hinting
they,
at. Like,
I
what
think
could they?
I think the right-hand hitter has to be. Look, I'm going to say a name. Uh, and it's a player they've had interest in before. And this guy gets traded at the deadline every year. And actually, for some reason, every time he gets traded, he doesn't actually play well. He plays well beforehand, hits lefty pitching, and then he gets traded, and it's not as good. Like Ahmed Rosario could really hit lefty pitching. And he's done it for a lot of years. And by the way, he's doing it again now for the Nationals. He's hitting lefty pitching. He has versatility, can play second, short, third. He could put him in the corner outfield. He's not a very good defender anyplace, but he has speed and you could put him in these places. So you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, it's those type of players that you're
no,
thinking about. Yeah.
like he has functionality uh to be used. Do I think he'll be the guy? I would say not, but I know they've had interest in him before. They almost signed him last spring
Yeah.
training, right? So yeah.
He'd be like the Yankees version of like a Kike Hernandez, or even I wouldn't say Tommy Edman, because Tommy Edman I think is really talented, but yeah, I mean he's that type of player where he gives you a lot off the bench, and he could also start in multiple positions if you need to in a pinch.
Yeah.
Joel, that's an episode. Appreciate you as always for giving us your time and breaking down Yankees baseball. And like we said, this is now that second third of the season. We'll see how they go along here. Who's going to step up? Who's going to solidify their spots in the lineup? And I'm sure the Yankees front office is going to be looking forward to seeing how they get those answers developed. And we'll see what happens with these injury news with Weaver and Dominguez coming up this week as well. Joel, thank you, man.
All right, Ryan, all the best.